Hello, and welcome to another segment of Smoke Signals. I'm your host for today's show, Lieutenant Chris Taylor from the LaGrange Fire Department. On today's show, we have the American Red Cross to talk with us about some very important topics concerning the American Red Cross. So stay tuned, because you're about to watch Smoke Signals. Welcome back. Today we have with us the Executive Director of the Georgia Three River Chapter of the American Red Cross, Connie Hensler. Hello, Connie, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I know it's been a while, but today I know you have some great information that you'd like to share with us concerning the American Red Cross. But before we get into that, if you could just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and how long have you been with the American Red Cross?
Sure. I've been with the Red Cross for about 6 years now. Okay. And as you mentioned, I'm with the Georgia Three Rivers chapter. Our main office is located right here in LaGrange, and we do serve 10 counties. We go from Harrelson all the way down, around, and over to the Upson, Lamar, Spalding area. So we have about 500,000 people that we serve. Okay, and that's been an increase compared to when you first started the American Red Cross, and you took on more territory. Definitely. It's been about 2 years now that we've had the chapter of 10 counties.
Okay, okay, great. Now, speaking of the chapter itself, and you mentioned about serving the 10 counties, how many disasters did you all respond last year?
Last year we had 190 cases that we responded to, and that was over 600 individuals that we were able to help.
Wow.
If you break it down, it's about every other day that we're responding to a major disaster in our community.
Right, and you know, the disasters can range from so many different things, but you know, the services that you provide, you know, shouldn't go unnoticed, because American Red Cross is known worldwide. And you know, when you think about it, well, not only worldwide, but nationally, and when you think about it, we hear about disasters happening in other regions, and we're like, man, we hope we don't experience anything like that, but we have enough on our hands, even if we don't have the same type of incident.
We do, you're right about Red Cross services. We are part of the largest humanitarian network in the world. And so when there's a disaster, you know, around the world, across the country, or down the street, the Red Cross is there. And we do certainly hope that we don't have disasters that happen right here in our community.
Right.
One of the good things with our volunteers is that if there's something that happens outside of our chapter, they're able to go and respond there as well. Okay,
and since you mentioned that, I'm glad you brought that up. The East Coast disaster, was it the Sandy?
Yes, Hurricane Sandy.
Hurricane Sandy. Did you all have an opportunity to send personnel from here?
We did. We had a couple of volunteers. One went to New Jersey and one went to New York to help out. Okay, well, that was probably tremendous for that group, because that was a big disaster that the East Coast faced. Like, you know, the East Coast don't face enough disasters, but you know, it seems like it always happened in that area. But it's good to be able to have resources from our area that can go out and assist. It's great that they can go out, and then they bring back so much information that can then help our volunteers and help us grow in our response as well. Okay, cool. Now we're talking about the American Red Cross in general, and I know staffing can be a challenge, especially with a smaller chapter, but how are you able to respond to so many needs throughout the community? That's a great question. We do have a very lean staff. We have 2 full-time employees and we have 2 part-time employees. Okay. We certainly could not do the things that we do in our communities without our great partners and our wonderful volunteers. That's really the way that we're able to respond. We have disaster action team volunteers that they work on a rotating schedule. They're available around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, when it's their time to be on call. And if an emergency happens, a home fire or some other disaster, they get the call and they get up and they go and they respond to the scene. And so without those disaster action teams and those volunteers, we certainly would not be able to meet all the needs that we're able to respond to. Exactly. And as far as the
the volunteers, especially the disaster team, what is the qualifications to be a part of that?
Well, you just have to be willing to volunteer. We do have an application that you fill out, and we do a background check as well.
Okay.
So you go through that process, and then we do training. We certainly would not want anyone to feel like they had to go out and respond to an emergency without proper training. So we have various trainings that take place. Hands-on training. There's some things that are online that you can do as well. And then especially with disaster action teams, we pair a new volunteer with an established team to go out a few times so that they really feel comfortable in responding, and they know the things that Red Cross can and can't do, and really then they're prepared to go out, and then they can be on a team. We don't send anyone out by themselves, so we like to have 2 or 3 on a team to go out.
Okay, some of the more experienced volunteers.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what number do you all have available that someone can call if they wanted to find out more about being a volunteer, and of course the website?
Yes, a great way is just to contact our office, and that's 706-884-5818.
Okay.
You can also go to our website, and it's redcross.org/GA3Rivers.
Okay.
So you can find a volunteer application, volunteer opportunities, and it's a very easy process. And
a host of other information.
Yes,
and services.
lots of other information.
Okay. All right. Now, let's talk about disasters. What are the type of disasters that the American Red Cross generally respond to?
Well, as you probably know very well, the most common disaster we respond to is a home fire, and usually a single-family home fire. But sometimes it's an apartment fire.
Right.
It could be a church fire even. We can go to things like that. But we also do floods, or sometimes when we have severe storms and perhaps a tree falls on a home and you can't stay in the house, we can assist in that situation. Hurricanes, tornadoes, other disasters like that. Right,
and speaking of wind, since we talked about fires, because we have a great working relationship with the American Red Cross when we do have fire incidents where someone is a fire victim. We have a program called the After the Fire program. Could you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Sure, it's a great partnership. It's with our local United Way, it's with the fire department and other agencies that are able to assist after a fire. And so with the After the Fire program, it kind of starts with the Red Cross. We're assisting a client, and then through the information we're able to make the referrals that way to send them to the other agencies. And I think also the fire department has the After the Fire booklets available as they go out, and they can help distribute that and help the people get assistance that way.
Right, because with us, we identify the needs of that particular family or individual that may be a fire victim, and in some cases they may not need additional services right then, but we do give them the information so later on, if they need to make contact with the American Red Cross or some of the other partnerships, then they have that information readily available.
They know what to do.
Yeah, because in most cases, some families may have a family member that they can go, stay with, over the night or whatever, versus having to go and get a hotel. But you all do provide those services based on the needs. We do, based on their immediate needs, and we're typically providing a safe place to stay. And like you said, sometimes they have family to stay with. We make sure that they've got at least a change of clothes. Sometimes in the middle of the night they may come out with just their pajamas on, and so certainly a change of clothes would be needed and necessary. We also make sure that they've got financial assistance for food, so that they can feed their family at least for the first week and then beyond. We can provide emotional support, and then the basic, not basic, but the life-sustaining medication replacements. We can help with that to make sure they get through as well. Okay. Now, so let's talk about severe weather. We're in that severe weather season, which is also another busy season for you all, especially when it comes to disasters. Let's talk about what are still the dangers that you all face when it comes to severe weather, and what can people do to prepare themselves and protect their families? Well, the peak of the tornado season in the South is March to May, and so we're still in that season, and then June 1st begins hurricane season. So there are lots of weather-related incidents that could happen. The best way is to be prepared before something does happen. There are 3 easy steps that you can follow. Get a kit, make a plan, and be informed. So make sure your kit has food and water for your family per person for at least 3 days. Make sure you've included copies of important medical and other
information that you certainly would not want to lose.
That's definitely important.
Very important. And then also think about your children or pets, things that might be special to their needs. Don't forget about those and include that as well. Just really make sure your kit has those essential items that you and your family could use for the first few days following a disaster.
Right, and not to mention some extra cash.
Cash
is going to be important too.
And smaller bills too. You don't have to have large amounts or large bills. Make sure you have some that are easy to use as well. So keep that on hand.
Right, and you talked about the emergency plan to have in place when you're talking about getting a kit and having a plan.
Right.
And then what a lot of people need to understand, they need to practice this. Think about worst case scenarios so that everyone in their household will know what to do in case one of those emergencies do occur. And that emergency could be, it could happen in any season, whether it be a storm-related emergency, whether it be a fire-related emergency. Anytime you will have to evacuate your home or you gotta, not so much evacuate, but you have to stay in place to protect yourself.
Right.
You still need to have some kind of plan in place. Of course, we can't plan for everything. But the basic essentials need to be in place so that everybody know what to do and we don't have a whole lot of chaos going on all at the same time.
Have that plan in place and practice. And that's part of the being informed as well. Know what emergencies are most likely to happen in your community or in your workplace even. And that way you can be prepared and you can gear your plan toward those most likely types of emergencies. Of course, you're right, we don't know everything that could happen, but if you are prepared and you have a plan in place, you're probably going to be better able to handle it when something does happen.
Right, and I'm glad you mentioned about the workplace because, a lot of companies and businesses are actually having some type of emergency plan in place on the jobs because, you may be on a job when one of those disasters may come through our community. So being able to have a plan on the job on what to do is very, very essential. And not to mention, monitor, use whatever media outlets, whether it be radio, whether it be the news, whether it be a NOAA radio. Stay in tune on what's going on around you so you can know how to respond if necessary. That's
correct. Listen to what the local authorities are telling you. Listen to the weather alerts, know what might be coming, and just be able to be ready and be prepared in case that does happen. And the Red Cross is really here. We've got lots of tools and lots of resources that can help, and we're available to come out to workplaces. We can go out to other community groups or organizations and share more in-depth and detailed information about what needs to be in your kit, your plan, how to stay informed, and information like that.
Okay, all right, good. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have more with Connie Hensler for the American Red Cross. So stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Captain Dennis Knight with the Troup County Fire Department here with a few thunderstorm safety tips. If you can hear thunder, you're close enough to a storm to be struck by lightning. Last year in Georgia, there were more lightning-related fatalities than any other state. It's very important that we take thunderstorms seriously. When a thunderstorm approaches, you need to take shelter immediately in a sturdy building. Avoid using corded phones and electrical appliances. For more information on thunderstorm safety, please visit ready.ga.gov.
Welcome back. We've been talking with the Executive Director of the American Red Cross, the Georgia Tree Rivers chapter. Let me make sure I say it right. Connie Hensler. And we had a great conversation about some of the services that you all provide and a little history about the Red Cross and some statistics. But now let's kind of get into, let's change gears a little bit and talk about some other things that you all have available. Now we are in the smartphone age now.
That's right.
A lot of people are now are getting smartphones, and smartphone comes with unlimited amount of applications. So, and American Red Cross is not exempt to having applications. So let's talk about mobile devices and apps that the American Red Cross have to offer.
I'm very excited about the apps that we have. We have a lot of apps that we've just made available and released, and they're all free. Okay. So there's no charge. They are available for Android devices, iPhones, and iPads. But we have an app for hurricanes. We have an app for wildfires, earthquakes.
Wow.
We have a first aid app. We have an app that will help you find a shelter, and we have a tornado app as well. So lots of great information.
You know what's profound about those apps is we're suited to have any one of those disasters here in our area. You know, and that's very important. That was one thing we talked about in the first segment, is knowing what type of disaster that can be in your area. And you know, earthquakes, they have happened.
Could happen.
Wildfires, we're in the wildfire season. I can talk about that because we've been having quite a number of them here as of late. Or just ground cover and wood fires during this time of the year. And then of course, we mentioned earlier about the hurricane season coming up in the 1st of June. And we didn't have a real bad hurricane season in our area last year. But the hurricane season was fairly active in certain other areas of the country. So, you know, who knows? We don't know from one year to the next what the hurricane season is going to be like, but we still got to be prepared.
We don't. And while hurricanes didn't directly affect our community last year, we did open a shelter because of Isaac, and we had people evacuate here. And we were able to assist them and take care of those families as well. So we do get involved in hurricanes even when they're not directly affecting us here.
Well, that's good because, you know, when a hurricane is a threat, you have to evacuate so many miles away from the direct threat area. So, you know, a lot of cases, depending on which way the hurricane is coming, whether it's from the Gulf or it's from the Atlantic, you still may have to, you know, open your doors up to people who are trying to flee from the storm, whether it's coming from if they're coming from the west or if they're coming from coming from the north, you know.
That's true.
But anyway, and the same with us, you know, we're subject to be in a hurricane threat and may have to evacuate ourselves.
Could very well happen. You're right.
You know, so that's very, very important. Now, let's talk about the tornadoes itself, because you know we're in the peak of tornado season.
We are.
And severe thunderstorms. So let's talk about what are some things that you need to have in place in your home when there is a thunderstorm or a tornado threat.
One of the most important things I think with a tornado or thunderstorm is to make sure you know the safest location in your house. Know where you're going to gather your family. If it's an interior room with no windows, or if it's the basement, if you have a basement, just make sure you you know where that place is in advance. And if you need to get blankets to cover yourself with, or you know, anything like that, make sure you know that. One of my favorite apps is actually the Tornado app, because if you download that, it has some audible alerts, and so it will alert you to watches and warnings in your area. It will also alert you to severe thunderstorm warnings, because I guess it was a couple of weeks ago when we had thunderstorms in the area. In the middle of the night, my phone went off with an alert, and it was the Tornado app letting me know that there were severe thunderstorms in the area. So it's just a great tool to have for that. So that's another important thing in tornado seasons and thunderstorm, when thunderstorms are around the area. Heed those warnings. If it says there's a watch, you be on alert. If it says there's a warning, get to your safe location. Don't wait it out. Don't go outside and check the weather. Get to your safe location.
And also know the warning alert devices that we have in our communities.
That's right.
Because you know, a lot of times you may be in the center of the county, but the threat may be on the border of another state, and that alert goes off, it letting you know that there is a warning. It may not be in your immediate area, but our state or our community is under immediate warning. So, you know, you need to take heed to that, because depending on how fast that storm is moving, it could be up on you before you know it.
It could be. So listen to those alerts. If the sirens go off, if your NOAA weather radar or radio goes off, or your app goes off, make sure you're heeding those warnings.
Right. And that was something I wanted to mention about severe weather alerts and other type of alerts. You know, Troup County 911 also has a great alert device called Code Red, where you can actually apply for that app, and I think it's free also. And you can get alerts on your phone, on your cell phone, through 911 when there is severe weather threats or anything of that nature, missing persons and stuff like that.
Right. So that's another great thing to take advantage
exactly.
of.
So all those apps that are out there, you know, it's not like we don't have enough apps on our phone.
Just add one more. It may save your life. You don't know.
Just add one more and make sure you got a good battery.
I will mention one other thing on tornado apps that I thought was really neat. There's a toolkit.
Okay.
And a lot of people have a flashlight app already, but the toolkit has a flashlight that you can turn on and off.
Right.
And it also has another alarm. You can turn the alarm off. So like if you were trapped someplace and you had your phone with you,
right.
you could sound that alarm and it would sound that out, and so maybe someone could find you as well. So just lots of neat things and information that's available.
Right. And something else that that everyone needs to be mindful of is when you have a severe weather or some type of power outage or anything of that nature in your neighborhood, you know, you talked about cell phone flashlights, but you definitely need to have a flashlight at home and don't need to use candles. Because candles, if they're not used properly, they can start a fire, and you don't want that to happen. So use whatever lighting resources that you have other than candles, because that's the safest thing to do is to have some kind of flashlight, whether it's on your cell phone or if you have
a real flashlight.
A real flashlight in your home, and make sure you got good batteries, because what good is a flashlight with no good batteries? So you want to make sure you take advantage of that, and then, you know, some other safety measures that they might find on your website or also other websites we have, because the Georgia Emergency Management Agency is another great
lots of good information
website where you can go to and get information. And readygeorgia.gov is also another wonderful resource for information for disasters and things of that nature.
Right.
Now, let's talk about being a support group for the American Red Cross. All right, let's talk about being a supporter and a volunteer. So let's get into what type of support does the American Red Cross usually get, and then what type of volunteers do you all generally have?
Well, there are lots of ways to support the Red Cross, and especially your local chapter, the Georgia Three Rivers chapter. One way is just what we've been talking about, and that's be prepared. So really we would encourage everybody to support the Red Cross in their efforts to make sure that people are prepared before something happens.
Right.
So be prepared. Another great way, as you mentioned, is to volunteer. If you have time to volunteer, you can give as little time or as much time as you'd like. You can sign up to be a disaster action team volunteer. You can sign up to volunteer when there's a large event that happens. Maybe you just want to help work in a shelter. That's certainly something that's available, and we provide training for that as well. If you have a little bit of time to give during the day and you'd like to come help out in the office, perhaps answering phones or doing some other things that would be a great help in the office, we would love to have that type of assistance as well. So really there are lots of ways to volunteer. Depends on how much time you have, depends on what you're really interested in. And some people volunteer and think, oh, I really want to do this with the Red Cross, and they get in and they get way more involved in doing lots of other things, and they see other opportunities. So we really are planning to focus on volunteer recruitment in the month of May with our chapter as well. So if anybody is interested in any way, we would encourage you to give us a call, go to the website. We can give you much more details and information and tell you about the training that's involved, and you know, come out and see if that's something that you could help us with.
Now, what is the minimum age for someone that can volunteer?
Well, we have volunteers of all ages. You really need to be 18 or with an adult if you're going out and doing something with a disaster. But we have youth volunteers that help us in the office. We have youth volunteers that help us with our Scrubby Bear program that teaches personal hygiene to really pre-K age children. So we can find something for everybody to do. Cool. Lots of ways to support the Red Cross.
All right. And speaking of supporting the Red Cross, we have a partnership with you all, the Heroes campaign.
You do.
And you want to talk about that?
I do, because that's another great way to support the Red Cross, and that's making a financial donation. We certainly could not meet our mission and do the things that we do in the community without our generous financial contributors. And you mentioned the Heroes campaign. That is something that we have underway now. We just kicked it off a couple of weeks ago. And we have local volunteers who agree to be Red Cross heroes to raise money to help with what we're doing.
Right.
And the partnership is that the LaGrange Fire Department does a boot drive every year, and we really want to thank Sergeant Anthony Mitchell. He heads that up for us.
Yes,
I know
does.
You've been instrumental in working with him and making that happen, and
right.
it's just a great way for the community to get involved. And you know, any amount of money can make a difference to the Red Cross.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
$2 can help with a snack. I mean, $5 can provide a blanket for someone when they're standing out in the cold after a home fire. So.
Right.
Up to an unlimited amount. There's just, you know, every bit adds up, and it all does really help.
Right, and that's important. And you know, you never can say enough when it comes to the financial support of taking care of the services that you provide. Because, like you said, no services want to go not rendered, but you always want to make sure that you have the funding so that you can provide the best possible professional services that you can for the people that you serve in your community.
Right.
And people need to understand that. So we appreciate, you know, everything that you all have done as far as partnering with us, and we look forward to continue the partnership with you all from the fire department standpoint, especially when it comes to the after the fire program and anything that we can do to help with the Heroes program as well.
Well, we certainly appreciate your partnership and support.
Okay, thank you. And that's pretty much all that we have for today. We want to take this time to thank Ms. Connie Hensler of the American Red Cross for coming out and sharing that great information about the services that the American Red Cross provides in our community and the other surrounding counties that they serve. And we'd like to thank you for watching another segment of Smoke Signals. Until next time, take care.